young singer named Justin Moore.
We don't do a whole lot of bullshitting up here. We just get up here and play country music.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back in to another installment of the Justin Moore podcast. This is season 3, episode 9. I'm Justin Moore. Along with me, as always, my man, my buddy, JR, the handler. What's up, buddy?
What's up, brother? I got service so far. I'm not going to jinx it, but everything seems to be working today. We got clear skies. There should be no reason for any issues today. Hey, I had to say this real quick, so going to get this out of the way because I definitely don't want to forget this. It's on the top of my mind. One of our best buddies, a former guest on this podcast, it's his birthday today, and it's a special birthday because for me, I look at it as like, everybody should see this. Our buddy, as y'all know him affectionately as DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, we just call him Dally, or D, is his birthday day. Dallas turned 65 years old today. And I said this morning, I said, you know what Dallas did today? You think he got up, was expecting some cake or doing this or that? No. Dallas got up, had a protein shake, and got a workout in before he even started his birthday.
Of course
and
he did.
And for somebody to be 65 in the shape Dallas is in should inspire anyone to get up and move. And it got me today. I got up and got a DDPY in this morning and took a walk with my nephews. And just wanted to say that. Thank you. All heroes don't wear capes. DDP, thank you for all you do. You're a selfless human, and we appreciate you. I want to send a little birthday love your way all the way down to the Atlanta area today.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dally. And I know I owe you a call. I know. Brothers don't act like this. I know I've been really
Call
slammed.
me, bro.
I've been really slammed, man. And every time I feel like I'm going to have an opportunity to chat with you, I just run into something else, and all is well, but I want to catch up. And you know, when you call Dally, it's not a 3-4 minute conversation.
Oh no!
So happy birthday!
If you need that good pump every now and then, that's me. I call him and it's, get off just instantly inspired.
Yeah, happy birthday, brother, and inspiring to say the least. Speaking of inspiration, I got to be honest with you. JR and I are probably, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I'm a little bit nervous right now to do this podcast, and this is a first for me. I don't really get nervous. I don't really get starstruck, but I'm kind of feeling as though I'm going to be a bit today because a huge inspiration of mine is going to be our guest today. The one and only Travis Tritt is going to be on the show today here in a little bit, and I mean I can't even believe those words are coming out of my mouth, JR.
Yeah, he's going to be on your podcast.
I don't know if I don't even know how this happened, to be honest with you, because it didn't happen because of me. I think JR is responsible for this, and you can maybe tell the story, but I'm just like, did they tell him it was like some big-time radio show or some really important interview or something? But I don't know how it happened. But he's got new music coming out a couple of weeks after our next album comes out. So we're going to talk to him about that. But, I mean, there's just so much to talk to him about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Tritt. Are you kidding me? I mean, Trouble. Here's a quarter, call someone who cares. I mean, I can go on for days. We actually, that was part of it. Yeah, he's got new music out. He's got 2 songs out now. And luckily enough, friends of mine, as you know them as well, Brent Cobb and Adam Hood, and our buddy Dylan Carmichael, Ashley Monroe, Tim Montana, all got cuts on his album, and they went over there and wrote with him. So I've been hearing about this album of Travis's coming out for over a year now since Adam and Brent been going over there writing with him. So I was pumped about that, and as soon as I saw the date and knew he was doing some press on it, I want to give a shout out to our illustrious publicist, the genius on the publicity end of all the stuff we do, a big encouragement for everything we do, Miss Jacqueline Carter. Just want to say shout out to her. She's actually the one, she reached out to his people because, a lot of times it's usually our friends. Somebody, I just go through my phone, find their number, their tour manager's number, or get you to call them. And, I've only met Travis a few times. We'll talk about all that, but so I just said he's got new music, and we'd love to have him on and I basically said that if he even knows who we are and would like to, So and of course they within an hour they were like, yeah, he'd love to do it. So
wow, well, really,
and
really,
I'm in the same boat, yeah. definitely a little nerves here today, but it'll be fun. I know he's a good old boy. I've doing a little homework the last couple of days, and just everything I thought. He lives back home in Georgia, so I think this is going to be a fun time, and hopefully we can hopefully get some good road stories out of him.
Yeah, we've actually worked with some of the same people on the road from the record label end of things, and I was hearing some stories from some of those guys of the old days, and so we'll see what we can get into. I know we can't get into all of it, but
right. Well, hey,
I look forward to catching up with him.
Yeah, I was going to say, talking about music, I wanted to get this out here. I was looking at the charts this morning, and we didn't have much. Nothing moved on the charts this week, but didn't have much moved another spot up the chart, so it's still climbing, so that's good. Yeah. Thank you guys for chiming in and using your power as influencers to make sure these songs keep rocking. I'm glad y'all enjoy it as much as I do. And I thought before we get him on, we'll hit a little sports while it's hot on the thing. Talking about the Atlanta area, I got to watch a piece of the game before my ESPN went into blackout zone the other day, and the Braves end up not holding on to a 1-run lead, end up losing 2-1 to the Phillies, putting us at 0-3 to start out the season. But it's a long baseball season, and I think good things to come. But just want to get your thoughts on that, if you got to watch any of the Braves play yet so far.
I haven't, honestly. I've been keeping up as much as I can with college baseball, but I didn't catch the beginning of the MLB. But as you said, it's a long season, in baseball, and plenty of time to catch up, and they should be pretty good again. So hopefully they'll right the ship and.
But dude, college. Talking about college, I saw your Hogs are sitting at number 2, and I think it's to a couple days from now, whenever this airs, y'all are going to play Ole Miss. Will be ranked number 3, a 2-3 matchup coming up.
We've talked about it on this show how ridiculous the baseball is in the SEC. It's really comparable. It may be even better than football, to be honest with you, which is crazy. But yeah, we had another we had a 1-2 series, I think, when we were ranked first and Mississippi State was second. We went down there and we swept them, which you hardly ever do at Mississippi State. They've got a great venue there and great baseball tradition, obviously. And then we came back home this past weekend and lost our first game to Auburn, which Auburn is a really good team. But they've just not been able to capitalize when they've had leads and different things of that nature. And so we lose the first game, then we're down late in the second game, come back and win it. We're down late in the third game, come back and win it to break their hearts. And they really had an opportunity to sweep us at our place, and we took 2 or 3 from them. So, but I think Auburn is going to. I know it pains you to hear, but they're gonna beat up on some people here down the road. They got really good pitching at the top. I think their bullpen struggles, but they can absolutely tear the cover off the baseball. And a mutual friend of mine and yours, we'll tie it into the Braves and Auburn. Tim Hudson, who we became friends with years ago, him and his wife Kim. Tim is Auburn's baseball coach. He was a standout pitcher and center fielder he was a two-way player for Auburn back in the day, and just an absolute beast. And then he played for the Braves, among other teams. That's the only team I care to remember him playing for. Yeah. But I texted him after the night of the second game when we come back and won. I said, man, I hope you used all your pitching in that game, and please don't take a series from us at our place. And we had a fun exchange with that. But yeah, getting back to the original point, so we had those 2 series, tough series, and I forget our first series, but yeah, right back to the number 3. So now we had a 1-2 matchup away from home. Now we go to a 2-3 matchup away from home. So it's relentless, the schedule in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the good thing is, you're going to play all the tough ones. You might as well get tough. It's like football. By the end of the year, I mean, SEC teams are hard to beat because you play that level of competition every week. It just makes you better. So
certainly helps them in the postseason for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and so looking forward to a great baseball season and collegiate sports this year, and in the pros. So we'll keep y'all updated each week with any updates that come along the wire for that type stuff. Wanted to go to tonight, actually, as we record this in all transparency. It is Monday, and the national championship basketball game between the Baylor Bears and Gonzaga's Zags. I don't even know what the Gonzaga's mascot is, but the
Bulldogs,
Zag?
I think.
Is it? Yeah. It's some form of a bulldog. That's right. They play tonight, but got to comment on that UCLA Gonzaga finish the other night. I mean, I've seen all the videos where UCLA makes the layup, and UCLA, I was pulling for them because that's who beat Bama, and I thought, well, whoever beats Bama, that's who I want to go on and win it. I had a little love for Baylor because they're a Southern team. You know how we roll, and but so they show all these clips of people who had bet money on UCLA or were just fans, and at these sports bars back there, they make the layup and everybody's going nuts. And less than 2 seconds later, the guy hits the dagger prayer at the buzzer beater, and
Man.
Zags roll on, still undefeated.
So did you watch that game?
The epitome of March Madness.
Or did you just see the highlights?
Most of the highlights. I saw some of the game, but we had people over, so I didn't get to watch the whole game.
Probably. And I know we're all kind of a prisoner of the moment most times. Probably top 2, 3, 5 basketball game from start to finish I've ever watched. Ever.
Wow.
I mean, it was just back and forth and back and forth. And both teams were playing well, clean. It wasn't like a lot of mistakes. And then somebody got a big lead, and then another team came back. And I'm telling you, the level of play was just – I mean, kudos to both of those teams. I mean, it was fun to watch as a basketball fan, and I've always pulled for Gonzaga because I really like their coach, and they've been so close, but just never have gotten over the hump. But I found myself in this game because it's the first full game I've watched of Gonzaga this year. I found myself in this game pulling for UCLA simply because of one player on Gonzaga's team, Timmy, who's an incredible player. But he has to be one of the most showboatingest players I've ever seen in my life. He's got a Fu Manchu. So it's like half the times he scores, at least half. And it could be a layup, drop-step layup, which is a great move, but not like he didn't posterize nobody. And he rubs his Fu Manchu and holds his hands up in the air. It came across poorly to me. And I'm like, I don't want that guy to win.
Right.
And
it's
so
like act like you've been there.
Yeah,
Come on,
really. It was too much for me anyway.
Right.
And so
it's like an Auburn rushing the field when they finally beat somebody after 20 years.
Right.
It's like act like you've been there.
So I don't know, but kudos to both teams and coaches. I mean, it's just a really fun game to watch, and I was honestly bummed out that the dude hit the shot at the end because I was like, yes, double overtime, 5 more minutes of this, great. And then that was just gone. I'm like, oh, it's over.
So the layup went to tie the game.
Layup was to tie the game, and the guy that made the layup for UCLA's got a few studs, but he's just phenomenal. I think his name's like Uzang or something.
He's got a wild haircut.
Yeah, I mean, he is just – he's going to be a good pro. I mean, he's just a scorer, but he's smooth. He can pull up off the bounce. He gets to his spot. He'll pump fake and get to the elbow, rise up over people because he's got to be 6'7", 6'8", long. Just shoots the cover off of it. I mean, he's special. They've also got a really good point guard named Tiger something. He's got the wildest hair I've ever seen in my life.
That's the one I was thinking of.
He looks like a tiger. His hair looks like a tiger's mane or something.
Yes, that's who I was thinking of.
I'm not even making a joke. It is the wildest thing I've ever seen, but he can he's 5'10" and can flat go now.
Yeah, that other guy you were talking about, the long swing guy, he was the one that crushed us. I mean, he just shot anything he wanted. He'd get to the elbow and pull up, and it was silky smooth elbow jumper, and there was nothing we could do.
Just never missed.
No,
but
so smooth.
I was thinking about that when you said you wanted them to win it all because they beat you guys. Had it been UCLA win, it would have been the teams that had beaten Arkansas and Alabama.
Oh, wow.
Because
Yeah.
Baylor beat us. And
Yeah.
I really felt – I told you how good Baylor was last week. And watching what they did to Houston, they beat us by 8, I think, or something like that. And they beat Houston by 20, 21, something like that.
And Houston had a great season.
We were the only team in the tournament who played them under double digits.
Wow.
And so I knew they were good. I knew we got beat by a better team. But, yeah, it'll be fun to watch tonight. And I just hope it's a great game like the Final Four game was. And, and I think it will be. And I don't know. Before the season, I probably would have said I think Gonzaga's the better team. But I'm telling you, man, I don't know that anybody can stay in front of Baylor's guards. They're just – I've never seen anything like them. It's like Usain Bolt being a stud basketball player. You just cannot stay in front of these guys. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it.
Like Russell Wilson or Russell Westbrook just can fly.
Yeah, just
so
first.
fast.
Nobody's got a chance against their first step. It's crazy. It's nuts, man.
Well, who? If you had to give out a prediction for tonight's game, and they'll know the results by the time this airs. Who would you give? You give a bucket to Baylor?
I'm probably going to go with Baylor, and they're both great teams. I think. They both have great guard play. They both have good inside players. I would give Gonzaga the edge inside, but man, those guards, as good as the ones are from Gonzaga, and they are good. I'm probably going to go with Baylor if you made me pick somebody. And that's just because I've watched them both in the past couple of weeks.
Wow.
But
yeah, I'm the same boat. I think that we all knew it was going to be, at the beginning of the tournament, I would have took the field over Baylor and Gonzaga. But we could probably all see this happening in reality. It was just a showdown for if somebody had a chance to stop one of those two, and here they are, the two best teams in the country playing each other. So
they really have been the best all year. So good for them. Congrats to their fans, and they're gonna be one team happy. That's it at the end of the day.
Yep. And like we always say, just hope everybody's healthy and happy and nobody gets hurt, because that's most important. Don't want anybody to get hurt. Don't hurt their future. And hope it's a good game for everybody involved. Like I said, we've got Travis coming up here in a little while. I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to jump on before we take a little pause, before we kick it over to our sponsors for a minute.
I just wanted to touch on, speaking of ball, Ella had her first tournament this past weekend, and it's the first tournament. We moved up to 12U and moved away from league ball and started a tournament travel team, whatever you want to call it, and that's a huge step up in competition. And we're really young with that team. I mean, most of the girls, all but one or two, could be playing 10U still.
Right.
But where we went and played with a bunch of 10, 11, and a couple 12-year-olds, and you're playing at that point mostly 12-year-olds, and we went 0 for 4. Had a chance to win one of the games. Didn't play real well part of the time, but our other part of the time played real well. But we'll get better from it, and you'll get to see Ella play on a different team tomorrow, and Kennedy play, because you're coming up here, because we're going to work actually. But where I was going with that is Ella played the best overall tournament she's probably played in 2 years maybe. So I was really proud of her. She did really
awesome.
Really well. Played a great tournament, and I mean you're talking about girls that can move the softball inside part of the plate, outside part of the plate, curves, rise balls, change ups. I mean, it's real deal. It's not any baby in anything anymore. And she got 2-3 hits and only struck out one time. So I was really, really proud of her. I mean, the whole tournament only struck out one time and got 2 or 3 hits, even had a line drive over the third baseman's head into the outfield. I mean, she just played really well, so I was proud of her.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy to think though that how far that sports came. I know we've talked about before. When I was in high school, our senior high, there was underhand slow pitch softball at the high school level still.
Yep.
And now we're talking about 12U travel ball placement on fast pitch. I mean, that's just.
And I'm talking throwing the ball 50 mile an hour from 40 foot.
Yeah,
that's a whole. We played at 60 foot 6 inches. I mean,
yeah.
It's crazy.
My nephew and I watched we were watching some. My nephews are in town. I know you had a bunch of family in town for Easter, and I've still got my wife's family in town with us. And my two nephews are 12 now. One of them's really into sports, and we were watching some ESPN. And I remember what we were watching. Watched a little bit of the Vandy game, but then it was Kentucky-Tennessee softball, and I was commenting on how terrible Tennessee's uniforms were to him. And he was like, she's throwing it 63 miles an hour or whatever and moving the ball. And he said, wow, it's going fast. And I said, yeah, and you got to think, too. Look how close she is.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no time to react, and they're just slinging it. And, I mean, it was
yeah,
wild.
it's crazy. I mean, I mean, there's so many similarities to baseball, but it's a different game than baseball. I mean, it's moving way faster on a lot of different aspects of the game. It's fun. I've enjoyed it. So just want to touch on that. But you mentioned Easter. I say we take a break, come back, talk to Travis Tritt, and then after Travis, we'll come back and talk about how our Easter was maybe.
Yep, I like it. All right, we're going to take a quick pause for station identification break for our fabulous sponsors. I want to thank again to the Bobcat Company for taking care of us and all this stuff. And here's a little note for them. And we'll be right back here on the Justin Moore Podcast.
Hey guys, today's podcast is sponsored by Bobcat Company, who has blown me away with the amount of cool and useful equipment that they offer. You know Bobcat for their loaders, right? They are the ones who invented the skid steer 60 plus years ago, and today they make a Toolcat utility work machine, zero-turn mowers, I need one of those, compact tractors, I need one of those too, and a ton of other cool stuff that makes it easy and a lot of fun to get work done around your property. Check them out at bobcat.com.
There he is.
There we go.
I can hear him, and now we can see him too.
How's it going?
How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Man, doing well. I just want to say, first and foremost, I can't believe you said yes to this, but I'm so appreciative of that. Just, I've been such a huge fan of yours, and you've been such an inspiration for me for so long, and we can get into that. But just first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah,
so,
this will be the least professional thing you have to do as far as any press you do for your new album. I guarantee you that. This will be the closest thing to hanging out in the garage with you boys.
That's great.
You're probably gonna get.
No doubt about it. Before we jump in, Travis, how much time you got, man?
Oh, I've got all the time you need.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Like I said, thanks for coming on to the show today. Like Justin said, I mean, big fans for so long.
Man,
and,
thank you.
I mean, how could you not be? We grew. I mean, a lot of that stuff was the soundtrack to our youth, and being teenagers, rocking out, and then coming up through the music business. But I know you got new music coming out, and I've been jamming it the last week or so. I'm just eat up with Smoking a Bar. I mean, brother,
man, I tell you what,
so good.
At first time I heard that song, I just fell in love with it because it reminds me of what I've been hearing from people for the last, I don't know, several years about
2 decades.
Yeah, yeah, probably at least. People talk about they started talking about well, we like a lot of the country music that we hear today, but man, we miss the stories. We miss the stories that country music has always told traditionally. And then, of course, in the past year, with all the pandemic and the election and all the upheavals that we saw, riots and all this other stuff, I just had a lot of people that would say to me, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could just go back to a time when we could trust each other again, when there wasn't all this upheaval and craziness, and just stuff going on that we see every day now. It seems like the world's gone crazy. And in years not too far back, we can all remember a time that we didn't have all that stuff going on. And the world seemed to turn a little bit slower. We could go to bed without worrying about locking our doors at night, and that sort of thing. So as soon as I heard the song, man, it just brought all of that back to me, of all the comments that I've heard. And I think it's resonating with people. There's a lot of people out there that are hungry for a little bit of nostalgia. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I think
no doubt.
That's what the song talks about.
No doubt about it. It's it reminds me of some of my favorite older stuff, country music, and that was explaining some of the time frame that you're talking about, getting back to not locking your doors and all of those things. And my current single, that's one of the reasons I recorded it. When I heard it, I heard it's called We Didn't Have Much. And so and I want to get this back to you. I'm just trying to make a point here. But I heard it and I thought, man, that reminds me of, literally, it sounds like a cliche country song in theory, but I really did eat dinner with my parents. And had those conversations. They made me tell them how my day was.
Sure.
I did it kicking and screaming. But I did it. And with all of the things going on and in today's world, I know you have children, as I do, and it's got to be tough to be a kid. I know it's tough to be a parent, but it's got to be tough to be a kid right now, because as much as we had going on in our youth, I mean, they have so much more going on, and it was just such a different world then. And one of the things we fell as parents, my wife and I, in a lot of different areas, but one of the things I'm most proud of is literally we eat dinner together every single night. Now, we may have the TV on in the background, but we do eat dinner together, or whatever. So I understand what you mean by, I have the same conversations with friends of mine back home and people at shows when we have a chance to see them. About, man, I wish you guys could do this musically. And that comes from a place of, getting back to things as a society as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think that was probably one of the silver linings, if there was one, behind 2020 and the pandemic and the shutdowns for basically a year, is that I got to spend more time at home with my family, doing the normal things that I normally would not get a chance to do if I was out on tour all the time. Sitting down, eating dinner with your family, exactly what we just talked about. And the one thing, and I have to give my wife all the credit for this, because she basically raised our kids when I was out making a living and touring and doing the stuff that I've been doing for ever since they've been born. But the thing is that she instilled in all of them an extremely deep love and respect for family as a whole. And to this day, I see that in all of my kids. I mean, they still love. I know my oldest is 23, my youngest is 17. And man, when I was in that age group, 17 to 23, all I could dream about doing was getting the hell away from my parents. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to be anywhere around them. But our kids are not that way. Our kids, they like hanging out with us. They get to do some pretty cool stuff every now and then, like, go to a show and meet different people that they normally wouldn't have a chance to meet. And they just like hanging out with us. And plus, if we're at home, if my wife and I are at home, if we're just watching a movie or something on TV, the kids will come through the living room and, hey, what are you guys watching? Well, we're watching so-and-so. Hey, you mind if we watch with you? So that's very cool. As a parent, there is nothing in this world I could think of that a parent would want more than to be able to spend time with and enjoy hanging out with your kids, especially as they get older. So
that says a lot about you guys as parents, because that's a rarity, I would think,
yeah.
you know, and pretty special. And that being said, my wife and kids were thrilled with me being home for a while. I don't know if yours have reached this point or not, but they're like, Dad, all right, enough's enough, man. Like, when do you get on a tour bus and go somewhere?
Yeah.
So I don't know if your wife has reached that level or your kids have reached. Mine did. Finally, they hit a wall. They're like, all right, enough's enough.
Well, I think for them, it was not so much wanting to get rid of me as much as it was because they come with me. I've been luckier than most. I've had the opportunity not to do a lot of shows, but I've done quite a few shows over the course of, the last 6 months. And just about every time that I get the chance to go out, my wife goes with me almost every time. And some of my kids go with me. I just did 3 shows down in Florida this past weekend, and my daughter and my wife both came with me. So I think, though, that they wanted to see me get back, because I'll be honest with you, dog, when you're an old road dog like I am, and I can't go out and tour like I want to, it changes my personality. I start becoming not a really nice guy to be around all the time. You know what I mean?
We need our fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I get frustrated.
But it's tough, and my kids are Travis. They're ranging from a little boy who's 3. Then I have 3 daughters who are 6, 9, and 11. So, it's a little different situation, but I've done it their whole life too. Yeah. So I think for mine who are kids, like, this is not. What we typically do isn't normal to most people, but it's normal to us. What we've been doing the last year is not normal to us, being home all the time. And so kids thrive in a routine, and even though our routine is much different than most people out there listening, it's our routine, and I think we're all just kind of ready to get back to our life rhythm that we're accustomed to.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's been interesting, but glad to see you doing well and doing a few shows. We finally got to start doing a few shows. We just did a venue I know you're super familiar with. We just did Billy Bob's, which is always a blast, and one of the greatest honky-tonks out there. And I like you have an album coming out, and I've been doing a ton of press. And one of the guys that I spoke with this morning, I told him, I said, man, he was asking about my podcast. I said, we've been doing it for a year. I feel like we've gotten better at it. I'm certainly not a professional on this side of the microphone, but it's been a lot of fun for me because I get to talk to, friends in the business and then heroes and like you. And I think we've probably said hello in passing a few times throughout my career, but I don't know that we've ever had the opportunity to have a conversation. And so he said, man, you got to ask him. I was talking to him recently, and he was mentioning about new artists and the way that people are discovered now and technology and all these things.
Yeah.
It's so different than even when I moved to Nashville in 2002 and signed my deal in 2007.
Yeah.
So it was even a different world then than
sure.
That was before Facebook and all this stuff.
Sure.
And so I said, basically, you made a good point, and I'm paraphrasing here, that it's somewhat difficult for these new artists who didn't go out and play all these honky-tonks and learn. They didn't go to honky-tonk youth, basically.
No,
man. And
that's right.
We haven't done it as long as you, but we had the good luck or good fortune of having to go do that in a van and a trailer and doing all that stuff. And I also brought up the fact that I said, well, it's funny because to Travis's point, I've been talking to my management who's signing new acts, and I'm like, man, you mean to tell me they're radio touring over Zoom? They ain't having to carry guitars through airport after airport and do. I sound like an old guy who's screaming, "Get off my porch!" But I just thought the conversation was pretty interesting, and I'd love to get your perspective on it.
Well, here's the thing. I grew up in the bars and clubs from the first time that I started pursuing this as a career, I started playing, and I played them all, man. I played beer joints, honky-tonks, bowling alleys, biker bars, pool halls, you name it. And
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but George Briner, does
Yeah.
that name ring a bell?
Yeah, oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so he's
Yeah.
ahead of my label now.
yeah,
He said when Travis starts talking about bars, he goes, you got to ask him about Miss Kitty's because that's where he was playing when
absolutely.
when
And that was
you
one of
guys
the
met and
that
started
was one of
working
the-
together.
That was the nicer one, one of the nicer ones. I
Yeah.
mean, I played a lot of places, man, that were just rough. And
Yeah,
the thing that when I talking about the new single "Smoke in a Bar," I literally, even though that's not what the song's about, I played in bars, man, where it was just smoke filled from one end to the other, and I don't miss it at all. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of things about those clubs that I played, and those beer joints and juke joints that I played that I don't miss. But I would not take anything in the world for those experiences, and I'll tell you the reason why. Those experiences, playing those bars and clubs, taught me so much about, first of all, they taught me who I was as an artist, and they taught me how to entertain people, do more than just sing, how to get people's attention, how to deal with something when a microphone goes down or you break a string on a guitar, or and you don't have a crew to fix that for you, how to keep the patter going, keep people's attention, how to work a stage, how to interact with your audience, how to set up a set list that will keep their attention, finding out what my audience will and won't accept from me as an artist. I remember when I first got started, before record deals and all that, I mean, I'm a human jukebox. I'm playing everybody else's hits and occasionally trying to throw in one or two of mine that nobody wanted to listen to. But I'm playing everybody's stuff. And I found out very early on that for some reason or another, my audience would accept me doing a Hank Jr. song or a Waylon song. My audience would not accept me doing a George Strait song, even though it was a huge hit.
wow.
My audience did not accept that from me. And so I found out very quickly, okay, this is the direction that I'm supposed to be going in. Obviously, this is what I do best. And so it just taught me so much. And even though I wouldn't want to go back and repeat those days, every single night when I walk on a stage anywhere, I find myself pulling on lessons that I learned from being in those clubs.
Obviously.
It's just so important. So anytime that I hear about an artist or read about an artist that is not doing any of those things today, I wonder about how much they're missing and how much how much experience they're missing out on that will probably, if you've got any talent, will give you some kind of longevity if you have that information, and if you don't, you're going to be lacking.
You
Puts you at a
said
disadvantage,
you said the word longevity. That literally was popping in my head because I was going to assume, because based on what you said, that you think that probably has certainly been a huge part of your longevity, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I
It
knew
makes total sense.
I knew even before I ever came to Nashville, I knew exactly who my audience was, and I knew exactly what kind of music I wanted to do before I ever came to town. So, and I refused to let people at record labels or other people change my mind, because I had the experience, and that was the thing that I used to tell them, no, I don't think I'm going to be changing up my program. I'm going to stay with what I know, because you guys, I know that you claim to have a crystal ball and you claim to know everything there is to know about the industry. But here's the thing. I'm the one that played those thousands and thousands of shows before I ever met any of y'all. And I'm the one that knows what my audience responds to and what they don't. So I think I know my audience a little bit better than you do.
And for our listeners out there, I'm assuming Travis is going to be too humble to say this, but I can say it. When he came to town and was able to have the balls, quite frankly, to say that to a record label, and not only that, but knowing who you were as an artist and what you wanted to say and stand for, and I mean, what you wanted to play, what you wanted to look like on stage, what you wanted the show to be like, everything. That was a rarity back then, because a lot of times, and you can speak to this a lot more than I can, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole. I'm just trying to make the point that
I don't mind talking about it at all.
That was you usually sign to a label, they put you through this machine, and then off to the races you go. So that was really, in a sense, really brave of you to do that. And I don't mean to diminish the word brave, but
where I got the courage to do that from Waylon Jennings. And
wow.
When I first got started, the first couple singles, first 3 singles actually, that we released were Country Club, Help Me Hold On, I'm Gonna Be Somebody, in that order. And,
I mean, that's insane.
And they did extremely well, and everybody was happy because those were, pretty much straight down the line country. But my 4th single, I released a song that I'd written called "Put Some Drive in Your Country," and it was a song that I had written at the graveside of Dwayne Allman down in Macon, Georgia.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
I've
been there.
Used to play there a lot. They had a Miss Kitty's location there in Macon as well. So before I got signed to a record label deal, you go down there and play for 2 or 3 weeks, and Monday through Saturday. And during the day, I would go and hang out at that cemetery where the Allman Brothers used to hang out. And I hung out right by his grave. Anyway, I wrote that song very much with Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, people like that in mind. And it had all these rock guitars on it. And I know it sounds crazy to say this now, but back in those days, that just was not allowed.
No, not at all.
In Nashville.
No.
It wasn't allowed. And so, man, as soon as I did that, I started hearing from people at my record label and people at radio and a lot of people that were writers for all these country music magazines. And, man, they just started slamming me. And they said, well, this guy, he's a rebel, and he's a nonconformist, and we don't know what the hell's wrong with him. And some of them it actually came out and said it. This guy must be an asshole, Yeah. And the fact is that I was just trying to do the kind of music. I was trying to show another side of my influences, because I was influenced by a lot of other things besides traditional country. So I started getting all this grief, and to be honest, it was starting to get to me. I was starting to get a little bit, I don't know if you'd call depressed is the right word, but it was starting to upset me a lot. And I met Waylon Jennings. And as soon as I met Waylon, I was doing a show with him in Atlanta at the Omni. And I went backstage before the show, and I had a little group, some of my label reps and other people were with me. And we went back to meet him and, take pictures and just shake hands. And as I was walking out the door, I was the last person to leave the room. And I was walking out the door, had my hand on the door, and was getting ready to walk out. And Waylon said, "Hey, Hoss, come here a minute." I turned around and looked. I was making sure he was talking to me. He said, "Hoss, come here a minute. I want to talk to you." And so I came back over, and he said, "Sit down in the chair." There was a chair right there. He said, "Sit down." He said, "I just want to tell you, I've been hearing all the things that they've been saying about you in Nashville and on these radio stations and all this other stuff." And he said, "I just want to remind you of one thing. That is exactly the same things that they said about me and Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash and, Hank Williams Jr. and David Allen Coe." And he just went down the list. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, those people, all those people that are saying those things about you, they get their music for free. They don't pay a dime for music. He said, the only people that you need to be concerned about are those people that go out and work hard 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week to make a living for their family. And they're willing to take some of that hard-earned money that they've worked so hard for and spend it on your music and occasionally splurge for a concert ticket when you come and play in their town or close by. Wow. He said, that's the only people you need to be worried about. And he said, he went on to say, your record's selling? I said, yeah, every record I've done so far has gone platinum or better. Great. Are you still drawing people to your shows? Yes, sir. Every one of them sold out or nearly sold out. That's all you need to be worried about. And man, that took such a load off of my shoulders that I could just go out, because I realized he's exactly right. And it was like having an epiphany for me. So from that day forward, I just really didn't care what anybody else thought. I just
incredible.
Went out and just did my own thing. And as long as the audience was responding, that's all I cared about. And it's all I care about to this day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's like that's the balladeer telling you that. I
yeah,
mean,
man.
You know, Waylon's
Absolutely.
telling you that. You know, and I know, and I had some friends that were at your show, some buddies that work for the promoter that were down at your show, down at one of your shows down in Florida this past weekend. And I saw a clip of you doing a Charlie Daniels Long-Haired Country Boy acoustic, which we're huge fans of Charlie as well.
Yeah.
He's one of our guys. I actually, at the end of each of these podcasts, I read a chapter out of his Let's All Make the Day Count book.
Yes, sir.
That's how we close every one of these podcasts. But I was thinking about that because his other book, which goes to what Waylon was saying, worry about the audience, is Charlie's other book is Never Look at the Empty Seats.
That's right.
And Justin and I have both read that a few times.
Yes, sir.
That makes so much sense. And then that little interaction with you and Waylon almost reminds me of, on pretty explicit album back in the day or video, the Eddie Murphy bit that he did back in the day when he's calling Richard Pryor to ask about Bill Cosby, telling him he shouldn't say this or that, and Eddie and Richard Pryor goes, "Do you sell seats to the people? Would you say what you say?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "Do people show up?
Exactly.
Do you say what you say?" He said, "Well, tell Bill to have a Coke and a smile."
Shut
and,
the fuck
you know
up.
What? You know, yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So that
Bingo.
So that was pretty much it, you know. And I thought that makes it's you know. So I thought that makes it. That's who matters.
That's a
It's
fact.
like Charlie said, we're not worried about the empty seats. That's not worried about the people who came and paid good money and took off work and got a sitter and paid parking and got paid $8 for a beer and all that to come see this show. And that's who we're worried about.
The song that kicks off the new album is a song that I wrote with Channing Wilson and Wyatt Durrett. Back
Love Channing.
Yeah, back a few months ago, and it's basically it. I went in the first time. It was the first time I'd ever written with those guys, and I went in and I was telling them that story about Waylon and about how the record label tried to change me and tried to get me to do all these different things, and I went along with it for a little bit, very short period of time, and finally just rebelled against all of it. And they were like, "Man, we got to write a song about that." So we ended up writing a song called "Stand Your Ground." And that is the first song. That's track number 1 on the new album, Set in Stone, that'll be out May the 7th. And it's talking about, they try to say that they have crystal ball, but trust me, they don't know it all. There ain't no substitution for the truth. Don't ever let them turn your head around. Just stand your ground.
Wow. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
speaking,
I was looking.
Go ahead,
JR.
Jeff. Sorry. Now, I feel like I'm monopolizing your time, but I just, while we're on a certain subject, I just want to touch on when you were telling the story about Waylon. As JR mentioned, we just thought the world of Charlie Daniels, and I know you probably had a great relationship with him as well. And he's just one of my heroes in this business. And then I got to know him almost as a grandfather-like figure.
Yeah, that's what he was to me, basically.
Pretty close to him,
Yeah.
And I don't know. He made everybody feel that way.
He did.
But
He
not a
did.
better human being ever walked this earth. But you were talking about. I had a moment like that at the Opry with him when I was really nervous, and he kind of calmed me down. But,
Yeah.
You were talking about direction of music with that story, and I've always said this, and I'm not saying it because you're sitting here, but I grew up. The first time I ever played music in a band at all, my uncle has always been in a Southern rock band.
Yeah.
And was when I was growing up, and I grew up singing in church because my mom and dad made me.
I did too.
To be honest with you, and I did
I
it
did
begrudgingly, but I'm sure I loved it subconsciously.
Yeah.
But and when you grow up in a town of 300 people, there's not a whole lot of people who can sing on key. So guess who got chosen to do all the specials and all that stuff.
Exactly.
But my uncle, when I was 16, 17, I started jumping up with him at VFW clubs and Moose Lodges and all these places that I probably shouldn't have been in. And I just I fell in love with Southern rock, but I also had grown up on, really traditional country, like you mentioned George, obviously Willie, Waylon, Merle, all those guys.
Yeah.
But then when you guys in the 90s came out and really did traditional stuff, I love that stuff as well. But I feel like Charlie Daniels, at least in my lifetime, was the first guy who, the right way, put traditional country and Southern rock together.
Yeah.
And I feel like nobody since him did it until you.
Well,
what would you say about that?
I don't know how much credit I can take for that because I was just following what I loved. I listened a lot to Charlie. I listened a lot to Hank Williams Jr. too, quite frankly. Hank was really good at that.
Hank was another guy maybe I'm leaving out of that.
Yeah, he was another guy he was probably the first guy that I heard that really blended that Southern rock stuff with the straight ahead country and made it just work. But I love Charlie because he was not afraid to. And he, when I first started listening to Charlie, I'm a little bit older than you, but when I first started listening to Charlie, he wasn't being played on country music stations. He was being played on rock stations.
Right.
And it wasn't up until after I got signed that they started playing Charlie Daniels on country radio stations. Really.
Wow.
I mean, for the most part, occasionally you might hear Devil Went Down to Georgia, but
right.
for the most part, nah. They're not playing his stuff on.
They're not playing Trudy on the
No,
traditional
no,
radio.
no.
Yeah.
So, but my experience with Charlie was very similar to yours. When I first met Charlie, we released Country Club in August of 1989, and that November, December, we went down to play we did a whole week of shows, I think 6 or 7 nights at the Sands Hotel and Casino with Charlie Daniels. We opened for Charlie. And they literally, since I was so brand new, they wouldn't put my name on the marquee, and they put me and my whole band, into a broom closet. How do I know it was a broom closet? Because there was a big barrel, one of those big 55-gallon barrels of Zepp sweeping compound in the middle of it. I mean, this room was tiny. Now you can imagine 6, 7 guys trying to get dressed and, trying to operate in this little dressing room. Charlie came down the first night before the show just to introduce himself. And he walked up and, "Hey y'all, I'm Charlie. I just wanted to say it's a pleasure having y'all on board." And he looked in the room. He looked around the room like that, and he goes, "What is this room?" I said, "It's our dressing room, sir." He said, "I'll be damned." He said, "Y'all wait right here." Okay. And he left. He came back about 5 minutes later. He said, "Y'all come follow me." And like a bunch of little ducklings following a mother duck, We followed him down this long hallway, and he came and stopped in front of 2 double doors that swung in like this. And he swung those doors open, and it was a room that was big enough to land a plane in. I mean, huge. And they had all of their backup instruments. They had an extra drum kit set up in the middle of this room. They had all their extra guitar amps set up so they could rehearse and jam and whatever before the show or after. Down this side was a prime rib carving station with 2 guys carving prime rib. Down this side was a fully stocked bar with 2 bartenders and a bunch of little rooms connected around the outside. He said, "This is my dressing room. From now on, it's your dressing room too."
Wow.
And just, I mean, it was something he didn't have to do. And
No.
at the end of that week, every night I would go on stage and I would sit and look to the side, and I could just see the silhouette of that big hat over to the side. And he watched my show from beginning to end every single night.
Wow.
And he did his meet and greets at the end of the show every night. And he would have 300 people or more, 500 people lined up outside the dressing room to come back and do a meet and greet with him. And so the last night, I'm standing there in the dressing room, and he pokes his head out the door. He grabs me on the shoulder, and he pokes his head out the door, and there's the lines out there. He said, "Folks, I'll be with you in just a minute." He said, "But I need to go talk to my little buddy here for a second." And he grabs me, and we go down the hallway the opposite direction. And I thought I was in trouble. I thought I'd done something screwed up, right? So we get to about, I don't know, maybe 30 yards, 50 yards down this hallway, and there was a little stairwell. He said, "Sit down on that step for a second." So I sat on the step, and he just stood up and just leaned on the railing. He said, "Listen, I've been watching your show every single night." And he said, "I'm impressed with you." He said, "Man, you're going to have a career in this business as long as you want one." He said, "But I know that when you're first getting started, that it can feel like you're in the middle of a stormy sea with no compass." And he said, "I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and I've never claimed to be. But if there's any way that I can help you or give you advice, or if there's anything you just want to talk about or ask questions about or whatever in the business," he said, "I have been in this business a long time." And he said, "If there's any way I can help you, I will." And he gave me a piece of paper. Back in those days, I mean, we had cell phones everywhere. We had a different cell phone for the bus. We had a different cell phone that we carried with us, different cell phone for every vehicle we had, and that type of thing. And then the office number, and then the landline numbers for your house and all that stuff. He gave me a piece of paper with all of those numbers on it and said, "Call me anytime, day or night."
Wow.
And I probably used those numbers way more than I should have, but he was always that guy that always was there to answer on the other end of the phone. And
That's who he was.
Really great advice.
That's
Exactly who he was.
Exactly who he was, and he'd have been disappointed if you didn't call him.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing about that I've always remembered is how important it is to try to, whenever you're asked or whether you get an opportunity to, is to try to pay that forward to help somebody else, that's getting started. And I always look forward to having that opportunity to do that whenever I do get the chance.
That's incredible. JR, I've taken up too much time. Go ahead. I'm sure you've got some stuff, man.
No, you know me listening to stories about Uncle Charlie. I can hear him all day, and yeah, he was that guy.
Yeah.
And I remember it was one of his. I think it was. I can't remember, one of his crew or one of his tour managers one time, or one of his crew guys that was told me something similar to that years ago, because I first cut my teeth in this business. I started out in honky-tonks too, 20 years ago. And I don't know if you know this, I'm in Gulf Shores, Alabama right now. That's where I live full time.
Cool.
And Justin Yeah, and Justin is in Poe in Arkansas, so we don't live in I know you live back home in Georgia, so
Yeah.
we both exited Nashville a while ago ourselves.
Exactly.
Justin, after he had his first daughter, he moved back home, and I moved several years ago myself.
Absolutely.
But I started out with Wayne Mills. Do you remember
Yeah.
Wayne Mills? Do you remember that guy? Yeah, we did some shows with you back in the day.
Yeah,
and that
man.
was starting out, we played the Stab 'em Ups. That's what I tell people now when people say we played this Honky-Tonk, and they'll show it to me, and I'm like, that was the nice gig in town. That's not the place I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we went out with Charlie and them. One of the first big shows, it was actually in Macon, Georgia. We played the Macon State Fair, and I remember one of his guys telling me something similar to that. They made sure we had a spot and all this, and I was telling them, very thankful because the week before we had done a show with somebody, and not even the stature of Charlie, and they weren't near as cool.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why, man? I love their music. Why would they be that
Exactly.
way? But one of Charlie's guys said, he said, remember this, you're a young buck. I was probably 22, 23 at the time, and he's like, remember to be nice and be cool to everybody, because you're either going to see them on the way up or on the way down.
That's exactly right.
So always be cool with everybody, and I never forgot that, and then going to we did a few shows with you when I was with Wayne. I can remember one, and I tell this story all the time, and Justin and I still sit on the bus and drink and listen to you and Hank Jr. every night before and after shows.
Yeah,
That's
man.
our entertainment.
Yeah.
We're married guys, so we get done with the show, we get on the bus,
Yeah.
we just drink and listen to y'all with our driver driving us, and we're good
Yes,
hands.
sir.
But
Well, hey,
but I
that
remember-
guitar right there, the first time, every time I pick that guitar up to play, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
One of the first, I have my go-to 2 or 3 songs that I'll warm up my voice on, and one of them, every time I pick it up, is one of your songs. It's one
Really?
of those first,
man,
one of those
thank
first
you.
few singles you said.
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored.
Help me hold on.
Yeah, man.
yeah.
It's one of, I mean, all of them. I do
Oh,
all
that's
but
nice.
yeah. But
Well,
anyway,
and that's
sorry, JR.
and that's what. No, I was going to say, and that's what you said at that show. We opened for you one time in Bristol, outside the racetrack.
Yeah.
This was probably about 04, 05. We opened for you on the outside of the racetrack there at Bristol for the race day,
Yeah.
and I remember you played friggin' seemed like 4 hours, and it was awesome. And then at one point you let your band get down. I remember you're in full leather.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like $1,000,000. I mean, band's rocking. I mean, your bus is parked behind the stage. You could see it behind the stage. I mean, it was just the rock star shit we'd ever seen. You know what I mean? And you let your band get down for a minute, and you didn't get down though. You just got an acoustic, started playing full leather. It's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the August race or whatever at Bristol, and you said something to the effect, and I've said it 1,000,000 times, but you said something to the effect of, you ever go to a show and they don't play the songs you want to hear, or they don't sound like they did on the record,
Yeah.
or I wish they'd have played this one. You said that ain't gonna be this show. I'm gonna play everything. I'm gonna play everything that you want to hear right now. And you did. You played all the hits. You didn't leave anything out. And then it was so awesome. Then your band got back up. You did a few more numbers, and you're walking, and you tell them good night. And you're walking off. Band's still going. You get on the bus. The cymbals are still rolling. Everybody walks off stage, and the bus is leaving Bristol with a cloud of dust behind it. And we're just, me and Wayne and his band are standing there like, that is how it's done, boys. Take notes. That is how it's done. And that was, that's what, 16 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I'll never
Oh,
forget
that's
it.
so awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's
true
awesome.
story.
Yeah.
So thank you for always being cool, because your guys were super cool to us that day, and we were a nobody, So
we
it
always
obviously trickled down.
we always want to make sure that we do that. I had the unfortunate learning experience very early in my career, and I found out about it too late. I had some people that were involved with my organization that I found out later were not nice to some of the other people that we worked with. And there's an old expression, I don't know if you ever heard this expression before, but there's an old expression that says, nobody knows how bad the prisoners are getting treated till the warden gets fired. And that's pretty much the way it was. So after I got rid of those people, I started hearing oh man, we're so glad that person's not here anymore, because they didn't treat us very good. And I made it a well-known fact in my entire organization. Listen, one of the things I want us to be known for is treating people the way that we want to be treated. And I think it's extremely important to do that. So I'm glad y'all had a good experience.
We did.
Yeah.
And you remember the good ones, but like you said, you really remember the bad ones, because I could probably only count on a handful.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember those TMs that showed
Oh,
up,
yeah.
tried to throw us in the broom closet or give us rainbow, polka dot bracelets instead of laminates and stuff. And I'm like, I remember that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like Charlie them said, you'll either see them on the way up or the way down. And I remember, and a lot of those guys who are that way, like you're saying about those guys that used to work for you, they're not even in the business anymore.
That's right.
You don't stay in business acting that way in our business.
No, you
or
don't.
not for long,
No, you
at
don't.
least.
To y'all's point, Travis, I think you'll agree with this. Whether it's your kids, I think it's you get the same feeling with your kids or your staff, organization folks. It's not ever. It's not ever, boy, JR did this, and it was like Justin Moore's boy or Travis Tritt's guy or gal. It's kind of the same way with your kids. Boy, Travis's son was this or that, or Justin's son was this, or, so
it's going to get reflected on you.
Exactly. No doubt about it. And so there's nothing that makes me happier or prouder to be out there, and somebody from another camp will come up and be like, man, I just wanted to let you know that your whole camp has been so cool and easy to work with and a blast to work with.
Exactly.
And that makes you feel so good, just like it does your child when they go, hey, we had, like my oldest daughter's name's Ella, we had her last night. She stayed the night, and she could not have been more respectful and well-behaved.
Exactly.
And, it just makes you feel good.
Chest pops out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Pop a couple of buttons off your shirt. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
And that all goes back to relationships, and we've talked about some of your inspirations in Waylon and Charlie, and from an outsider's perspective, just a fan's perspective, it seems as though you probably didn't have a better friend or cohort in music than Marty Stewart.
I'd say,
and I don't know if that's true or
true.
It isn't true, but it at least seemed that way. And we've talked about different tours and stuff. I remember getting so mad at my parents. Was the No Hats tour? Was that
92?
When was that?
92.
Okay. I was thinking it was more 95ish. Okay, but I wanted them to take me to that, and I think I had a ball game, and I had to miss. I'd committed to play for this team, and my parents wouldn't let me miss it because that was my first commitment, because I wanted to go see you guys on that tour. Yeah. And I think my aunt and my mom and somebody else went, and I was so mad that my dad made me go play ball because I had to miss that show, and I was probably 10 at the time or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a tour that was more fun?
No.
I mean, that just seemed to me like you guys were just blazing hot, and I can't even believe, just looking at when you came out, you mentioned that your first three were the three that you mentioned, and then you put some Driving Your Country was right after that, which was also huge for you. But your first, 2-3 years, just your head had to be just going, what in the world just happened? Like,
there was nobody
nuts, man.
There was nobody that was more shocked by that than I was. Because,
and I'm not saying you didn't deserve it, but it was just like, bam, man. And I know you probably were confident in the songs that you had ready to go when you signed your deal, but when it's like every one and every album's going multi-platinum and then boom, huge tour, it was just like, I mean, I don't know that I could have handled that and still be sitting here having a career. I'd have probably been too celebratory, if you will.
Well, trust me now, I celebrated. I celebrated a lot, but probably too much. But the fact is that there was nobody that was more astounded by that than I was. I mean, it's what I dreamt of and what I always dreamed of. My whole life is getting that opportunity, but I never anticipated that it would happen that way. I kind of figured at one point, not too long before I got signed, I figured, this is going to happen in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm going to get signed to a record label deal. But there's a big leap between getting signed, as you well know. There's a big leap between getting signed and having a successful career with several, songs, albums that are all successful and doing very well. And it was just beyond my wildest dreams. I remember being on stage with my band, and we're playing, 20,000 seat auditoriums and selling them out every night. And we're just looking around at each other going, can you believe this? Can you believe this is happening? Nobody was more shocked by it than we were. And it was just, once again, just dreams come true.
Yeah. And I've proven to myself, people always ask what's the best advice you got. And I got mine from my mom, not Waylon Jennings. But
I got a lot of good from mom too.
Yeah. She was like, and it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. She's like, literally, son, you can really go do whatever you want to do if you work your ass off.
That's right.
And if it's meant to be. And
that's right.
To me, the definition of luck is when you are prepared to take advantage when your name is called.
There you go.
And you create your own luck to me.
I do. I believe that 100%.
And so, I've proven to myself that like this, because you really, when you grow up anywhere, really, you go, well, that don't happen to normal people. They're just like born to do that. But I've kind of proven to myself, now being 14 years into this, which is just mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
As an artist, I mean,
yeah.
But I can literally look my kids in the eye and tell them that with conviction.
Yeah.
And obviously you can do the same, but I was the same way to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying. You were surprised. I remember moving to town and everybody here going, man, good luck, patting me on the rear end and going, okay, he's going to be a country star. Sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, he can sing, but I mean, really?
Yeah.
And I'm going, all right, off I go, And so I remember going, man, if I can just get like a record deal.
Yeah.
And then just tell people, hey, I had a record deal.
Yeah.
And then when I got the record deal, I thought, I kept setting like short-term goals, I guess. And then I got a record deal. I'm like, man, it'd be cool to get a song on the radio. And then my first one went to 38 and then went right down. And at that time, you didn't get like albums to do to make it or break it. You were lucky to get 2 singles. And fortunately, my second single went number 1. But it took like 54 weeks or something. And I was like, okay, look, I got 1 hit. I can go back and be a big success back at home. If nothing ever happens. And I thought, but boy, I sure don't want to be a one-hit wonder.
No.
And then you go, well, shit, man, it'd be nice to get an album out. And I kind of kept doing, I don't know if that was exactly what you're saying, but I kind of kept going, boy, if I can just do this, boy, if I could just get to there, if I could just get to that show.
Everything you're saying, we have a lot in common because I started out exactly the same way. Everybody that I knew around me that was getting signed when I got signed. I got signed in 87. I didn't release the first single till 89. Wow.
Oh my God.
That was the longest 2 years of my life. And when I got signed, all my friends, all the people that I knew, they were getting signed to album deals back then. And which meant the record label was going to take that artist into the studio. They were going to cut a whole album of, 10 or 11 songs and then release singles off that album every few months for the next year and a half.
They were fully invested.
My deal, they were not fully invested. My deal was, back in those days, Warner Brothers did not sign anybody to an album deal right off the bat. They signed all their new artists, including Randy Travis, Dwight Yoakam, me, everybody, started out with a 3 singles deal. And what that meant was they were going to release 3 singles, and if any one of those 3 singles did not go top 10, you're done. You're out. Next. Golly. And so, man, you can imagine how I was praying when we released Country Club in August of 89. And fortunately for me, I all those prayers were answered more than I even anticipated, because not only did that song go top 10, but it also became the largest selling country music single that Warner Brothers Records had ever released up to that point. And that gave me the opportunity to go back in and say, okay, we're going to take you back in. We're going to cut the rest of the album, and we're going to release the album in the spring of the following year.
Did you pick that first single, or was it like everybody?
No.
Well, everybody in my experience kind of gets a say-so.
Yeah.
As far as my singles, I think I've been fortunate to have probably the loudest voice, and that's just a tribute to my label being really good to me. But
I got that over time. But when you're first getting started, at least in my case, when I first got started, I didn't want to rock the boat. So I just kind of went along with their whole program for the first, until we started establishing success. And then once we started establishing success is when I came in and said, okay, I'm going to start calling a few more of these shots now. And that's when I started, picking all the singles myself.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a guy named Nick Hunter that used to work at Warner Brothers, and he's passed away now. But back in those days, he was one of the top dudes there, and he said, "As far as I'm concerned, Travis, you can pick all the singles you want until you're wrong." So they let me pick them.
Yeah, the thing is too, man. It's like I don't know. At least in my case, I was just green as a blade of grass at the beginning, but I knew, kind of like you, I knew at least I thought I knew what my audience wanted to hear from me, just simply going out and playing shows and those types of things. But it was kind of good too, because I took a lot of input. That way I could place some of the blame if it failed on others as well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, there you go. Why not?
Yeah. So, but JR, you got anything else, man? I know we've kept you for dang near an hour, man, and I've just had such an awesome time getting to know you a little better personally. And it's funny you mentioned that we were a lot alike, because JR had sent me an interview that I don't even know who it was with, but
it was on Theo's podcast.
A
month or so ago.
And he said, he goes, I swear to goodness, y'all are the same people, just a few years apart. He goes, I swear the first half hour of this interview is y'all are the same person.
I told him, I said, it's like you went in the future and you took Travis's interview, and that's what you've been saying for the past 5 or 6 years. Because he lives back home. Nobody treats him any different back home.
Absolutely.
They would be mad if he acted different back home. He still coaches his little girls in softball.
There you go.
Just the same Southern rock influence. I mean, we're two guitars, band, the same kind of. Just a lot of similarities I saw, and in the style of music and the character and all that stuff,
Yeah.
And I know, and I know, like I said, I sent him that, and I was like, I swear, I'm thinking, as obviously a compliment, I'm thinking you and Travis are a lot alike. This is going to be, because like Justin said, I know I briefly met you that time in Bristol, and I was in awe. I couldn't hardly stick my hand out to shake it if you'd tried. But then I got to talk to you for a few seconds, you and your wife, when we were all in Nashville a few years ago for Kenny Rogers.
Yes.
So the thing we did, the farewell to the gambler, and talk then. But I was asking him, I was like, "Have you ever talked?" And he said, "No, I think we've met once or twice." But I was like, "I think y'all are going to realize we all got a lot more in common, coming from rural South and going and then going back home and sticking to your guns." And
you bet,
because I listened to some of that, and that's kind of like Justin, as he puts it best. I mean, he's always done his brand of Justin Moore music. I mean, we've bent a little, but we've never broke, and he's always had. He's told me before, he's like, the labels and managers, that's just my highest level advisors.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my deal. I got to go live with these decisions, and the music I put out, I got to live with it and sing it for the rest of my life.
Exactly. So. It's and the other thing is that I realized early on too was, these record labels and these managers and these other people that you work with, they're going to work with numerous other acts throughout their lifetime, but this is the only career I'm ever going to have. And I have to defend it. and work toward doing what I think is best. And I've always said too in the past that I could tolerate falling on my own sword.
Yep.
You know, I could tolerate that. I wouldn't like it, but I could tolerate it. What I couldn't tolerate is somebody taking my sword away from me and running it through me without me being able to defend myself. And so that I couldn't, you know, I'd be haunting somebody for the rest of eternity.
Forever.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
and it certainly has worked out for you. I mean, you certainly have great intuition, and I mean, obviously, supremely talented. I'm so envious of you as a songwriter and singer and a guitar player. I mean, you're just that's the other thing. I don't even think people realize how great a guitar player you are.
Oh man, thank you.
And you know, watching you, there's a concert. It's a full concert. I want to say it may have aired initially on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if it was in Georgia at a big theater or somewhere, but I've watched it on YouTube probably 300 times.
Is that the homegrown?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be, Travis. But you do a long section in the middle of the show, I believe, by yourself, and I'm just astonished every single time. I'm just like, good night. He can play the guitar, man.
Oh, thank you.
But man, people don't realize how difficult it is because you're not just. I can sit here and strum chords and do this and that and sing, but I mean, what you're playing along with what you're singing is it's so fun to watch. And it's like baseball. Baseball's my favorite sport, and the highest compliment is that you're a 5-tool player and you are of music, man. And I'll get you out of here with this, but your live show, the last part of that is you're such a great entertainer. I guess who inspired you to entertain in the way that you do? Because it's such a rocking show.
Wow.
And you're full of energy. And I guess did you have that designs of being that high energy, or did that come from somewhere, or just when you walked on stage it just came out of you that way? Or because I've never really thought I'm going to go out there and do this. It just kind of, and we're a pretty high energy show as well. I just kind of go out there and it happens. I don't know. Did you think about that, or did you design your show that way? Or
I know when I first started, I didn't think.
I don't know if I articulated that very well.
Yeah. I get exactly. I'll tell you where a lot of that came from. When I first started out, back in the early to mid '80s. When I first started, I was playing solo acoustic in any place they'd pay me to play.
Right.
And I realized very early on that I was playing 6 nights a week, Monday through Saturday, from 8 p.m. till 2 a.m. And then on Saturday, it was 8 p.m. till 4 a.m. And playing every night. So I realized very early on that I'm competing with a lot of stuff. First of all, you're competing with alcohol, which is in its own thing. Second of all, you're competing with people, in a lot of the places they serve food. So, people are having conversations among themselves. Plus, there's either pool tables, pinball machines, or dartboards in just about all these places, and
or a ball game on the TV.
On the TV.
You're describing the set of Roadhouse.
There you go. That's exactly it. So I started realizing, man, early on, I've got to find a way to get these people's attention. So I went to the local music store in Marietta, and I bought my first. I'd never played electric guitar ever. I bought a brand new Stratocaster and a brand new Fender Twin Reverb amp. And they had them, I haven't seen them anywhere before or since, but they had 100-foot long guitar cord.
Wow.
So I bought this guitar cord and this guitar and this amp. And I brought it back to my stage, and By the third set of the night, which was, if I started at 8, third set was right around a little before midnight. By that third set, man, I'm not playing acoustic anymore. I've got that Stratocaster, and I'm playing Johnny B. Good and Bad Moon Rising, and I'm running out on top of people's tables, jumping up on their tables and kicking their empty beers and stuff over, and just getting their attention. Make them pay attention. It's like walking up and shaking somebody and make them pay attention. And I don't know what people thought about it, but it must have worked, because the next thing I know, I've got people waiting in line around the building to come in. And I guess they thought, we're going to wait and see what this crazy son of a bitch going to do next.
Maybe he'll eat shit. We'll all get to watch it.
Wow, man. But it's true.
Funny.
I mean, you got to make people care.
Absolutely.
Especially, you know, it's easy when you have a bunch of hit records to go out there and do what we do.
Sure.
But when you ain't,
That's
it's
right.
tough sledding, buddy.
Well,
you got to go to work.
That's right.
Even now, I mean, we play these big arenas. I have to do my security meeting. I'm like, turn off all the TVs in the suites.
There you go.
Because there'll be people there with the TV on, back turned, and everybody around them's trying to watch the show. It's
Absolutely.
Like, just
Absolutely.
come to the show for the show.
So I think that's
awesome.
where that got started for me, Justin, is realizing that the more high energy I could keep it, the more I could grasp people's attention. And that just carried over when we started playing bigger stages and, you know, whatever. It started carrying over from there, and just never went away.
And that's one thing to me, again, that makes you so unique and made you stand out in a time when you're talking about arguably the greatest time in country music, at least to a lot of people. I mean, you came out in '89. I mean, we could go on and on about how many people came out.
The
in
class
89.
of '89.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
And to stand out in the crowd, in that crowd, man, it's got to make you proud of yourself and what you've accomplished.
Well,
And
it was just
looking at your.
It was just timing. You know, it was
Yep.
just timing. I mean, once again, I would have been happy if the career had happened at any time, but I was just lucky enough to be a part of, between me, Garth, Alan, and Clint, we became synonymous with that particular year, class of '89. And that
Which is
was
so
a year.
cool.
It changed everything in country music, as far as the money that was being made off of country music, more than doubled in '89, but between '89 and '92, it quadrupled again. So it was very, very cool. And once again, I can't claim any, oh, well, I did this or I did that to make that happen. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time when that whole rocket ship took off. And the cool thing is that I got to play a small part in creating this wave, if you will, that I got to ride on top of, you know, like being on a surfboard. I got to ride on top of, along with all the rest of these guys, for ever since, basically.
Well, you should and can take credit for what you did, because we're still reaping the rewards of, like you said, growing the genre the way that you guys did, and y'all were kind of the catalyst for that at that point in time, and like we discussed earlier, it was because you were creating your own luck. You were prepared when your opportunity presented itself, and you did it, man. And
it was an exciting time, man. I tell you,
it kind of brings me back to the beginning of the conversation. So the question I had about how you kind of developed your show, it goes back to the very beginning of this conversation, where it was honky-tonk you.
Well,
I mean, it was
I'll tell you,
that helped
exactly.
you. It seems like all along your career, those character building moments and shows.
Exactly. I remember one other little thing I'll throw at you from that particular time that I remember. In 1990, I was let's see, 1990, I believe it was, is I was nominated for the, back in those days, they called the
Horizon Award, right?
Yeah, the Horizon Award for CMA. And I was nominated, and Garth won. And I was watching Garth because Garth was much more like I was as far as his energy on stage. There's some people that, they just stand in one spot and pretty much sing because that's what they do, and it works. And other people, they're more, they move around a lot more. So it's just
I'm not as good looking as George Strait, so I've got to run all over the place.
Me too. So, but I really started watching what Garth was doing, and that very next year, after that CMA award, he won. I went out and back then it was an astronomical amount of money, but I spent $1 million on a stage. And
Wow.
I mean, we had hydraulics that went up and down and platforms that moved. I had a ramp that went all the way around the back of up high above the drum riser and came all the way back around. And we had lasers and, the whole deal. I mean, it was really something spectacular for its day. And it was compared to what I had seen in a lot of like rock shows that I'd gone to.
Like the Stones and stuff like that.
Or Kiss or somebody,
Yeah.
So once we incorporated that gave me the opportunity to expand on, for entertainment value alone, expand on that ability to be able to move around all over the stage and make it truly an event when people came to see our show. And I think that's one of the things that helped to establish me as being, man, if you go to a Travis Tritt show, you're going to see this and you're going to see that. And the stage goes completely up and elevates, It's like when somebody flies above an audience, and,
Right.
You see that and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So that was all part of what I had learned from going out and running out with a 100-foot guitar cord and kicking people's beers over.
Yeah, well, just for our listeners, to your point there, just for our listeners and the folks watching this, because what we have tried to do with this podcast, Travis, is try to just provide a glimpse behind the curtain, behind the Wizard of Oz type deal for people that, I would have loved to have heard this conversation with you when I was mad about not going to the No Hats tour. I would have, how all this stuff was going down as a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And so that's totally at the expense of the artist and the artist betting on themselves. That's not money. I mean, that's money you think, well, maybe I'll get back if a handful of the people or a lot of people who come to that show in Peoria, Illinois, and the next year we go back, they bring 10 friends and their wives and their husbands and their buddies. And so that's not like you just get that money back. So that's a lot of gumption on your part to go, all right, we're going to make this big expense. Now, we bought the biggest stage we've ever bought this past year. It wasn't quite $1 million. It wasn't anywhere close. But and then we all get shut down, and so sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. But,
it's an investment in yourself, and
that's pretty cool for me to hear because I would never have guessed back in that time that people would have even spent that on a stage. So that's pretty.
Well, it
that's
worked.
Insightful for me as well.
It worked. It worked because I won the Horizon Award the next year.
It worked.
Hey, there you go.
Garth who? Garth who?
He's like, oh, he wins. Let me get my pen and paper out next year.
I'm gonna follow his blueprint, man. I see what's working for him. I'm gonna follow that.
Well, hey, he followed Chris Ledoux. So
there you go.
There you go.
Exactly.
So,
and I always say, it's not playing and singing; it's called show business.
That's exactly right.
It's all of it.
That's
it's
exactly
all of it,
right.
I mean, I get a little small piece of it, and people say, "Why you dress up for the show?" And I'm like, "Because it's show business.
Absolutely.
I'm not just gonna come out here and this and that."
Absolutely.
So, I had a quick. We were talking earlier. I know Justin had mentioned the head of our label, George Briner, who you've known. years now, and he sent me an email this morning, and I got to put this on here and see if this recalls any memories. He asked if we had done the podcast yet, and I said no. He said, Lord, I can load you up on some good stories.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, one of the few good ones. It was nice to have an artist who used to work in heating and air conditioning. He said, while visiting radio on his first radio tour in support of Country Club, we were somewhere in Wisconsin, and Travis actually fixed my air conditioning unit in my hotel room.
I did that for a lot of people, including myself.
That's a good thing to have, because they weren't as reliable. I know the bus air probably wasn't as reliable as it is now either. So that was a good tool to have in your bag.
Man, if you could have seen, it was comical though, because back in the day, you stay in these. We weren't staying in exactly the Four Seasons back in those days.
No, right.
So you're staying in these little motels and stuff across the country, and 9 times out of 10, I just can't sleep in a hot room, man. I just can't. So
Same.
So I would go in there, and if the air conditioner, even if it was working, but it wasn't cooling as well as it should have, I'd be in there and I'd be pulling parts out in the middle of the floor, having
Tinkering.
torn apart.
Taking the governor off of it.
Well, this condenser don't look like it's working right to me. I think
We'll flip your flow valve
we
over to your
replace
left.
that.
That's awesome.
Oh man, that'd be good to have, because I know I'm always hot. Justin would take you up on the heating part, because he's always cold.
Oh,
As
really?
he's middle of Arkansas wearing a sweater, right? Oh yeah, it's constant. I'm in there literally in some Alabama basketball shorts, and he's in full Arkansas head to toe sweatsuit.
Oh man,
and we're fighting over who getting the air conditioning up and down.
wow.
Travis, I'm built like about a 12-year-old little girl, so
And I've had a beer gut since I was 15, so I mean, it just all works together. Hey, I got a few quick things I want to shoot at you, and I know we've taken up a lot of your time, but we definitely appreciate it. One thing on here I wanted to do real quick was something that we do with all of our guests. It was what was the number one song in the country and country music on the day you were born? And for Justin and I, Justin is 330-84. His was Roll On 18-Wheeler by You Boys Alabama.
Yeah, man.
And I'm a 9/11/79 edition, and at that week, I May Never Get to Heaven by Mr. Conway Twitty was the number one song in the country. And would anybody like to take a stab at February 9th in '63 on what the number one song in the country was?
I cheated and looked, so I'll let Travis guess.
Man, I have number one song in country music, or number one song period?
Country music.
Number one song in country music. Man.
And I'll give you a hint. It was a TV show tune. It was the intro to a television show.
The Beverly Hillbillies.
That's it.
I'll be darned.
Was it really?
The Ballad of Jed Clampett. Yep, by Lester
Wow.
Flatt and Earl Scruggs. Absolutely.
The only reason in the world that I remembered that when you said TV theme was because I had a really good relationship with Earl Scruggs. Marty Stewart introduced me to him early on, and man, what a great guy. I loved him. But yeah, that's very cool. I'll be darned.
Yeah, we always
That's
do that.
That's a good one. That may be the best one we've had yet.
That's awesome.
That's really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, classic. I mean, and I grew up watching that in my grandparents in Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I always tell people before you meet my grandmother, I say she's kind of like Granny.
Yeah.
I mean, literally,
There
my
you go.
grandma's kind of like Granny. I skinned 2 hens and we'll boil them up, and make some dumplings later. I mean, that whole stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that's funny talking about your buddy Marty. I got a funny story I'll tell on Justin. Like I said earlier, we still like to kick it up a little bit these days after the show. That's our wind down, and that's part of the reason we started this podcast, because we usually drink a few and then we start calling buddies who aren't with us.
Yeah.
Say, because in our business, late at night, we're the only ones that are still up doing what we do. Unless you're in our world, you usually sleep. And at 2 a.m., we know we could probably call our other artist buddies because they're leaving their gig, going to the next town.
There you
too.
go.
So we'll be respectful and not even ask for your phone number, because we'll be calling you listening to Travis Tritt records at 2 a.m. after a show.
Yeah, we'll meet
be
some
going,
new artists
"These
like, y'all want to call Travis Tritt? So one night we're going to call somebody I don't know if it was somebody, I can't remember how it came down.
It was
but
an
we were gonna
ESPN analyst, but friend of ours named Marty Smith.
we were going to call. We were going to call Marty Smith at 2:30 in the morning. Well, Justin in his phone, the next Marty is Marty Stewart. So he calls Marty at about 2:30 in the morning, and I can't remember when did he answer? Did you leave him a voicemail?
I don't think he did. Which he's probably, and I don't know that I've seen him. Usually I see him at the Opry a few times a year. I don't think I've seen him since, but I'll have to apologize in person.
Yeah, I think you told Connie last time we saw Miss Smith. Last time we saw her.
Yeah, I saw Miss Connie. That's what it was, and I was like, by the way, please tell your husband. Anyway, I'm so sorry.
So anyway, but yeah, and one other thing too, and we were talking about that earlier. The bluegrass influence, which is a little lost these days, which we all grew up with a little sprinkle of that on all of our Southern gospel,
yes, sir, buddy.
Traditional country and all that, which we all still love. And I'm glad we talk about it on here. We love all forms of country music, and we're glad the genre's expanding because now we're getting some more of that stuff back in. You're getting some 90s interjection and some grass on some stuff.
Sure.
So that's cool. But and in talking about legends, and you were lucky enough to get to go gig with all these guys that were just a hair before Justin and I moved to town. I got to see a few of these guys at shows, and do a few, but never got to do long tours or any. You really takes a few weeks out on the road before you really get to know each other, and all that good stuff. But we have a thing on here we do is the Mount Rushmore of country music, and we've come to find out after the first few times we tried it to make a definitive Mount Rushmore of country music is impossible because there's just too many legends and where you pull from. So we've come to the fact now we just do it as personal Mount Rushmore of country music.
Mount Rushmore.
So if you had to give your 4 or 5 guys or gals that really just when you think of country music, that's who would be on yours. Can you even we can't, but can you get it close?
George Jones, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash would be mine.
That's a pretty
stout right there.
That'd be mine.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a good one.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Pretty stout.
Well, hey, and as far as all those guys gigging with, any of them stand out on tours outside of you and Marty's No Hats tour that you think back is like, boy, that was a fun time with Jones or with any of those guys?
I'll give you one example of a story before you start, Travis.
Sure.
We were touring with, or he was touring with us, whatever you want to say. We were touring together, Tracy Lawrence, who I'm sure you know really well.
Yeah.
And he's another Arkansas guy, such as myself. So it was a thrill for me to have him out there. And he obviously in the 90s was just a rocket ship too. And so many great songs, great artists. And it's been a thrill to get to become friends with him. And like yourself, I just have so much admiration for him and his artistry. And but he came on when we got shut down and came on the podcast, and he told a great story of touring with George Jones and somebody else. But he one of the funniest stories that we've done this podcast for a year now, and he talked about George popping you and giving you a cup check when you're walking backstage
he said
as often as he could.
Yeah, he said you don't want to walk. We're walking back and forth to meet and greet. He said you don't want to be on George's right side because he just reached down there and pop you in the cod, son. He'd go, take a bow.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have anything like that. But
Man, we had so many good times. I mean, I had a chance to tour with Joe Diffie and with Leroy Parnell one year, and we had a lot of good times on that. I'm trying to think if there was one in particular. There was Marty and I played a few practical jokes on each other, but I guess probably the one that I remember the most was Charlie Daniels, because Charlie, I had at one point in my career when I had that big $1 million stage, the only way that you could get on stage without being seen, because I was like riding a motorcycle out on stage and the whole deal, and the only way that I could get from backstage out to the stage itself to get up on the bike and on the riser was to go out in a road case and literally be rolled around past the crowd. They didn't know I was doing that, but I'm inside it, and
hey, this is behind the curtain, ladies and gentlemen.
There you
I'm
go,
telling you.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, so, see a random road case going through the crowd. It may or may not have Travis Tritt.
That's exactly right. So Charlie Daniels got me good one night. He I went to get in that case, and he had just played right before me, and I went to go get in that case, and he had snuck in there first, and he had those big like googly eye glasses with the springs on them, with the eyeballs that go like this, and he just sprung out and went like that, boom, like that, and scared the shit out of me, man. To get him back, I waited till the very end of the tour, and to get him back, he was so focused that he didn't like distractions, and stuff on his stage. So I waited till the last night of the tour, and I got one of my road crew, my guitar tech, and another guy in our crew, and they went out to a local costume rental place, and one of them rented a chicken suit, a full chicken suit, and the other one rented a rabbit suit. And so in the middle of one of the songs, I don't even remember which one it was, but one of the songs, I sent both them guys from opposite sides of the stage out there, and they're dancing all around Charlie, and he's looking around like, what in the hell? And then he sees me standing off to the side just laughing and goes, "Oh, I see what you did right there." But yeah, man, we had some good times back then.
That's so awesome.
We had a lot of fun.
Hopefully we have the opportunity, because to my knowledge we haven't had a lot of them to play shows together, whether it be festivals or maybe a whole tour together.
I'd love that.
There. But I cannot thank you. We've taken way too much of your time, but
not at all.
It's been an absolute thrill for me as a teenager who grew up idolizing you, especially one who was interested in pursuing music as a career, and then trying to. I've stole stuff from you on stage and setting up songs and those types of things. So. It's been an absolute thrill for me to talk to you and get to know you. And next time we run into each other in person, hopefully soon, it's a whole lot more than hey, good to see you. How you doing, man?
Absolutely.
It's a thrill to still listen to your music, play your music on stage, even or in my office here. And I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for not only your music, but spending so much time with us here today.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. And once again, there's nobody that's, happier about being able to still be able to do it after 30-something years and still go out there and play music, and which is what I signed up to do in the very first place. So thank you so much, and thank you for all the compliments too. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, as I talked about my parents setting the example for me as a parent and just a human being, JR and I both, I think I can speak for both of us, thank you for being one of the guys out there still setting the example for what we need to be a few years from now. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
And I'll sum it all up like you said earlier. Dance with the one that brung you.
There you go.
Every boy and girl out there wants to go to Nashville and do something. When you get there, dance with the one that brung you.
There you go.
And everything will work out like it has for old T-Rav. And make sure your people shoot me your number now, so next time we're up at 2:00 in the morning, we'll call you too.
That sounds perfect.
All right, buddy. We sure appreciate you, Mr. Travis Tritt. See you next time, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
I appreciate
so much.
it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
How about that?
I mean, that was incredible.
I mean, I don't even know where we go after that. We just talked to Travis Tritt for an hour and a half. So,
I mean, I really feel guilty about keeping Travis that long, but at the same time, I don't. I mean, he couldn't have been. He couldn't have been a nicer guy, more down to earth guy. I mean, we predicted that, but I mean, I've just been such a huge Travis Tritt fan for my entire life. I mean, really. And I mean, he told some great stories, and there's something about those 90s guys, JR. I mean, I know one of my favorite podcasts, and it's to this day my wife's favorite that we've done was Tracy Lawrence, who I briefly mentioned when we were talking to Travis, but they just kind of have a swag about them and a professional just demeanor about them. When you get to meet these guys in person, and I realize we're over Zoom, you can almost understand the more of these guys that we meet, why the music was so awesome then, because the people were so awesome. They were driven, hardworking, super talented, obviously. But man, it's just what a thrill. I mean, I know we're overstating it, but what a thrill to get to spend an hour and a half with one of our musical heroes. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to go after this. It's and like I said, he's just as down to earth as you'd hoped he'd be, but got that country swag, all of them. And like Trey said, I was the Wild Wild West, and they were in the hard rocking partying days and pumping out all these hits, and it's just hard to imagine what life would have been like on those tours in the early 90s and 90s in general. I can only imagine, and it only makes us want to raise the bar for what we do, because this is the act we've got to follow is guys like him, and that's 31 years. Think about you and your career at 14 years. I mean, double that and add a few. That's where he and Alan and Garth knows. I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, I will say it just continues to drive home the point that you and I have always kind of made, and quite frankly, we've been kind of dinosaurs in this at times, but we don't necessarily look up to the guys who are having the most success at radio at said time or this or that. We look up to the guys like Tracy and Travis and Charlie Daniels and all the guys that are still doing it, Hank Jr., all of that are all still doing it so many years later. And you know what, man? They're all happy. They're all happy. They have great families. They get to still go play music. They still love the music. And still
make music, still putting out new records.
And go get his new record, Set in Stone. I meant to mention it again. It comes out May 7th. It's his first in like a decade of new music, and it's just really inspiring for a guy like me who's been doing it as long as I have, and just a really good insight. And we talked about drawing the curtain back for you guys on this podcast, and I thought he was wide open as far as that's concerned. Even provided some perspective that I was unaware of there with the stage costs and stuff like that. Man, it's pretty amazing to hear their stories from them, not from their management or their band or from them. So
fifth person, you heard it from the horse's mouth, And and I one thing I didn't get to, and like you said, I was just in awe, and I was just like, please keep talking, Mr. Tritt. I'm like, just everything he was saying. But I was going to talk about, I didn't get a chance to mention about his album. It comes out May 7th, Set in Stone. And the songs that are out now, Ghost Town Nation and Smoke in a Bar, both great tunes. But we mentioned it off air. I want to give a shout out to some of our buddies who got to write on that record, which I didn't get a chance to talk with him about it. But he's going to send me his number, and we're going to call him this weekend on Friday night after the show. So I'll
True story.
I'm sure I will tell him 6 or 8 times when we call him. But I want to give a shout out to my brothers Brent Cobb and Adam Hood and Dylan Carmichael, my buddy Channing Wilson. I heard Ashley Monroe had a cut on this album too. He's writing with Aaron Ratier, a bunch of those guys. But definitely want to give a shout out to my boys Hood, hometown guy, and my buddy Brent Cobb. They said they had a blast writing this record with him, and I know from what they put out, if you combine that with what we know Travis Tritt is, the alien, awesome life form that creates country music, known as Mr. Travis Tritt, this is going to be a smash record. It's going to be one we listen to a lot. So I encourage everybody to go ahead and hit the download button on it so you can go ahead and prehab it.
I did it today.
Yeah. So as soon as the new songs, I'm sure they'll do grat tracks like we do. So every couple of weeks you'll probably get a new one until it comes out. So go on and like that. And while you're there on your account, wherever you find music, go on and get Justin's new album, Straight Out of the Country. I promise you, if you're disappointed in Straight Out of the Country, please hit me up on social media, because I just don't see a way you could be. I've heard all the tracks now. That's a great record. I'm looking forward to working this record.
Yeah, it comes out April 23rd. So
Yep.
thank
so
you
y'all
for
make,
that.
Yes, that's true story, brother. And so y'all make sure to go ahead and get those preloaded, because the way they do them now, it won't just all come out at one time. You'll get some songs every couple of weeks. And also when while you're there and you're clicking and liking and subscribing and stuff, make sure to do it for our podcast. That really helps us a lot with our numbers and the charting and all. I don't really know how all that works, the algorithm on how they figure this stuff out, but it definitely does help us with sponsors and guests and all that kind of good stuff. So spread the word. Tell your friends. I saw some friends of the cast tweeting out stuff and Instagram stories about the podcast, and they like Founders Beer because of the podcast, and they're telling their friends to listen. And Bobcat's a great company. They're sending me pictures of them on their equipment. So make sure to go on there, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, all that fun stuff on YouTube. All of our social pages that involve the podcast, and obviously where you download your podcast from. And like I said on prior podcasts, if you're there and your mom or your aunt or your cousin or your kids or whoever, you got their phone, go on and download it on their phone too, because they I'm sure they'd enjoy hearing it.
It's free. They ain't gonna hurt nothing.
No, and we'll bleep out all the dirty words, so it'll be good. So while you're doing that, while you're on the pages doing all that, make sure to go get Travis's new album, Justin's new album, and like the podcast and hit the notification button.
And comment. That helps somehow.
And
too.
comment, yes. Yes, and the 5-star review, all that stuff does. Comment, leave a 5-star review, and leave us a question on there if you want to. I've got a nice stack. I don't think we're going to get to them today, obviously, because we had a long one, but I think next week we might just fly solo, and we'll do some Q&A, and we'll just do some catching up on the road, because we've got 3 shows this weekend, 4 or 5 days worth of travel.
With Tracy.
We've got 4 with Tracy Lawrence and Miss Lainey Wilson. So that's going to be fun. We're going to Casper, Wyoming. We're going to Rapid City, South Dakota, and we're going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So we got a nice little long trip out west for us. So y'all make sure to tune back in next week, and we'll tell you all about how the road was. And we'll get to some of this Q&A. So if you've got any more, y'all make sure to use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast so I can find it. And and if you're looking for Justin Moore swag, I know I looked at the merch page yesterday. We've got a lot of stuff on discount already, because we've got some old stock stuff we didn't get to use last year from some tour stuff we didn't get to go do. So go to justinmooremusic.com and go to the merchandise page there and take a look at all that. And when you're checking out, you can use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast, and you'll get extra 10% off of what's already discounted. So
yeah, and honestly, not to try to oversell you on that, but if you guys are fans out there, it would be kind of collectors type items to have because of the year that we all went through. It'd be kind of like if one of your favorite artists had some stuff they need to get rid of or whatever from this crazy year, and you had it and they never got to sell it on tour or whatever. That's kind of I know that's super random, but I just kind of popped in my head, so.
No, I thought the same thing. I was talking to somebody where I went and saw Jamie
kind of
Johnson.
The lost year, if you will,
I was telling somebody that the other week when I went and saw Randy Houser and Jamie Johnson play, which I got some swag, because same thing. I mean, and I told some people there, they were like, well, I wish I'd seen him with his whole band or him with his whole band instead of them two acoustic. This is before the show, people just saying. And I was like, well, yeah, but you can see that next year or the next year. I said, them doing this together, you may never get to see this again. This might be the one time ever they do the tour like this. So take it as a special time to go see stuff. And same with the merch. I even saw where some of our 2018 tour merchandise they put back out to sale, because we had a couple of small sizes on that. So anyway, y'all go to the merch page and make sure to use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast when you're checking out, and get you an extra couple dollars off your order there. And remember to use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast anytime you're interacting with me, JR the Handler, on social media, or him at Justin Cole Moore on social media, jrthehandler.com, justinmooremusic.com. And like I said, leave us some comments. Let us know what's going on, anything else you want us to talk about, some guest ideas. I've got a few of those lined up, so we'll get to all that next week. But as far as I go, Just, I think I'm good for the day. I think I could just I think I'm going to go hang out and listen to some Travis Tritt albums.
Oh, my gosh. I wish I could do that. I got to go coach a softball game, which is also a lot of fun. But I'm kind of out of whack right now because I'm on such a high. But I just want to say before we get out of here today, we were going to touch on Easter. We'll do that next week. We got plenty of time next week because, as JR said, we'll probably go no guest because we've had quite a few in a row. I also want to once again thank Chris Shiflett for coming on last
Yes.
week. We didn't do that at the top of the show today. I want to thank him,
Yes.
and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it was a different direction for us, but great guy, great talent, and again, one of the coolest bands in the world and hottest bands in the world right now. So hopefully we have some feedback from that show as well, and maybe we'll get into some live fan feedback type stuff next week, and y'all let us know what you've thought of this season. This is episode 9 of season 3, and let us know about the guest list that we've had, because I really feel as though it's been pretty strong, and we want to make certain that we're going in the right direction for you guys. So let us know who you've loved, who you've been surprised by, maybe, those types of things. And we'll maybe get into some of that conversation. We'll also talk about Easter. I did my very first crawfish boil. I'll tease you with that. I cooked the crawfish for the first time ever. So we did that and a fish fry for Easter, and we'll talk about all that. And before we get off here, I also want to just extend a great thank you to all of you guys and gals who have been watching and listening, and who have been super patient with us. We started this thing. We're coming up on a year anniversary of this thing, and it was really just a thought bubble for JR and I. And certainly we're not professional broadcasters, but we've had such a blast doing this, and I hope that we've provided some content for you guys that you've enjoyed,
Yeah.
And I feel as though we've grown more and more efficient each and every week. I think this has been the greatest efficiency that we've shown in season 3, and a lot of that is due to our boy Cody Villalobos, who is kind of the mastermind behind this whole thing, and to JR's credit, he does a lot of grunt work on this that I just simply don't have the time to do, and I just come on here and run my mouth and monopolize whomever's time that we have. I didn't mean to do that today, but I was just rolling, man.
They don't want to hear me. I just try to get you guys going. They just like my little funny stuff from here to there, but they want to hear you guys talk.
And so I want you guys to know how much we appreciate you, because it's been a success, and we didn't know if it would be or it wouldn't be. We just knew that we'd have a good time. So hopefully you guys are having a good time listening, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, and absolutely. Thank all you guys. And I enjoy all my friends I've met through social media. Some of these guys I talk to all the time, and I'm going to give a bunch of those guys and gals shout-outs next week when we do that. And I want to go back real quick and say, thanks to Shifty, Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters, and a great independent artist on his own, for coming on last week and talking shop with us. And, it's funny because I was talking with Travis today, and he grew up liking the rock, the Southern rock stuff. And then there's Shifty, who's a rocker, grew up punk rock, but he likes country music, country music, swinging country music. So everybody likes other stuff. So I thought that was cool. And I like the teaser on the crawfish bowl. You hadn't even told me this yet, so I'm interested to see how that works. While we're doing that, big shout out to Boil Boss that sent me a nice some products of theirs. Y'all check that out at Boil Boss. Some stuff from next time I do a bowl. I'm going to use that. But I got another teaser here too. Whiskey Riff put out a thing recently, and it was Tracy Lawrence telling the story about how he got some of our guys on tour a little under the weather trying to drink with him. So I'm going to come on here and tell you the real story next week. So I'll leave you with that. Y'all go look up that article, Tracy Lawrence getting Justin Moore's band and crew drunk, and then next week I'll tell you what really happened.
That's right. And now the rest of the story.
That's right. All right. Thanks, guys and gals. We appreciate y'all all out there in podcast land for tuning in to this edition to the Justin Moore Podcast. Once again, click, subscribe, hit the notification button everywhere you go, and we'll see you guys next week.
I smell TROUBLE. Yeah.
And we are members of a country club.
That's right.
Thanks, y'all. Cheers. For any of you first-time listeners out there, at the end of each of our episodes, I like to do a little reading out of a book I've had that I've got a lot of use out of over the years. The book is by Mr. Charlie Daniels, and the book is called Let's All Make the Day Count, The Everyday Wisdom of Charlie Daniels. Chapter 85, Cooler Heads and Common Sense. Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in the lap of fools. I have never had a hot temper. I've never been quick to anger or fast to react in an assertive fashion, but I've been around some people who listen to their baser instincts and just have to respond to a disagreeable situation in an aggressive way. I remember an incident back around 1950 when I was playing junior high football for Tilliston in Wilmington, North Carolina. The main high school in Wilmington, New Hanover High, was the home of the Wildcats, and they were on top of the football teams in the state that year, knocking over opponents like bowling pins. One night, our junior high coach took several of us players to Durham to watch the mighty Wildcats take on the Durham Bulldogs. We couldn't believe it. The Wildcats lost, and we walked back to the car disappointed, to say the least. The coach hadn't arrived yet, and as we stood beside his car on the street, one of the guys with us started making loud and disparaging remarks about Durham and their football team. A small crowd gathering, and even though we tried to hush up our loudmouth buddy, he kept on dishing out the insults. The boys in the Durham crowd started answering back, worked up the nerve to do something more physical, and had one of our guys thrown to the ground. Our coach finally walked up and cooled out the situation. The point I'm getting at here is uncontrolled bad tempers and giving in to foolish impulses can create a bad situation, not just for the hot-headed, but for those who could become collateral damage in the crossfire. I don't know what would have happened if our coach hadn't showed up when he did, but thank God he did. Approaching a heated situation with a cool head, respect, and a soothing word can save a lot of headaches. Let's all make the day count.